But yeah, like, so one of the things I really wanted to have a bit of a chat about with you is like, obviously we've known each other for a really long time.
Mm.
And like through that time, I feel um, like your version of reality has like changed a lot
Yeah, yeah.
compared to what it was when I first got to know you. And that sounds
Yes.
weird. Like that
Yeah.
sounds super weird thing to say.
Yeah. It's like a weird, yeah, but very accurate way to phrase it. You know what I mean? I don't know how else to say it. Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
Yeah. And so I remember having conversations with you when we first started working together, in particular, like when we first started the business together. So for those of you
Mhm.
guys that don't know, me and Mick used to run a solid plastering rendering business together for years and years, and you know ended on perfectly fine terms, everything like that. But in those early years, getting to know you was super interesting to me because had like a totally different perspective on life than me, when it comes to drugs, when it comes to a bunch of the things that to me were just givens, you know, in the world. So, you know, one of those things was I remember one day we were having a conversation about music, mainstream music. I don't know if you
Yeah,
could,
yeah, yeah.
can you,
Well, we've had many
yeah,
conversations about music,
yeah, can you remember
and
this?
mainstream music,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. We've had many a conversation about that, about
yeah,
what constitutes even good music. Do you know what I mean? And
yeah.
I think at the time, and I still probably stand by this to an extent. It was my opinion was is what constitutes good music is what people like. So it's like what was mainstream music to me was good music purely for the fact of the majority of the people seem to enjoy it,
Yeah.
hence it being mainstream. Therefore,
It,
to me,
it's good.
that definition alone made
Yeah.
it good music. Um, but however, I'm the first to admit I'm the least musical person ever, and I am not the person that should be judge and jury when it comes to what is good or poor music. But just that just that perspective on music is, and I think I still do stand by that to a huge extent.
Yeah.
Obviously, like I don't know,
So like
there are some shitty songs that
the
have
hokey
been really
pokey,
popular, right?
like the hokey
Yeah,
pokey, the happy birthday song, because a lot of
even in more
people.
recent times, the Baby Shark song, right? Like, remember the Crazy Frog song?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah, 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 yeah.
it's like,
Those
yeah,
those must be good songs because lots of people know them, right?
well,
Exactly. So anyway,
yeah,
what was
no,
interesting,
no,
the reason why I brought this up was um having a conversation with you about that, and then I think it was like only the next day, and you came back and you were like, "Oh, hey, dude, I really thought about this, and I think I might not be as correct as I thought I was."
yeah.
I don't think you said you were wrong.
Probably not. That
'Cause-
doesn't sound like me.
no,
That
that's
doesn't
right.
sound like something I'd
That's right.
say.
Yeah. Because
I
obviously,
prefer to phrase things in the term of like maybe I'm not correct
yeah,
than
yeah.
flat out saying I'm wrong. But yes, that's
So it was super interesting to me. And actually, you're probably one of the first people in kind of like in my life that after having a conversation with you, I had come back to that same conversation and you had taken away something from it where you were like, oh, hey, actually, I changed my opinion on it.
yeah.
And for me, that like that was that actually too like genuinely was a point in my life where I was like, oh, hold on. Like when you talk to people, they can actually have a new
Mhm.
perspective from that
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, exactly. And like and that's what it is, you know. It's like just hearing somebody else's point of view and actually being open to receiving it from their perspective and then going, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." And if
Yeah.
I ever get to that with anybody's perspective, it has to change mine because it's like then if it makes sense to me, then it's like then it becomes true to me, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it's super interesting as well because like it doesn't necessarily even mean, I suppose, that you have to like believe what they believe, but even just having a like critical eye at what your beliefs are, you can
Mm.
take away something different from that
Yeah.
conversation from where you originally were. It doesn't necessarily mean that you've like totally changed your opinion on something. It just means that like you've actually gained the ability um to see it from just a slightly different perspective. You might not actually like believe that perspective. That might not be your like permanent belief of how you see things from then on. But yeah, it's definitely like a super, for me anyway, it was like a super refreshing thing. I honestly don't think that had ever happened to me. Like up to that point, I'd kind of like either had people like disagree with me or agree with me. So it was really nice to like share that perspective. And I think that that's kind of like one of the things that has had changed the way that I look at the world. So that even now, when I'm having conversations with people, I try so hard to be open to you know, what they're saying and trying to understand what their you know, what their life has led up to that point, and and being able to understand like why is it that this person believes the things that they do, why is it that they have the perspective that they do, and even if I might not believe in it, you know.
At least understanding how they got to that conclusion. It's like, oh, okay, I can see where you're coming from. I can see like how you got there. And like you said, maybe you don't necessarily agree with the end destination there, but if you can see like where the journey that they've taken to get to that point, you can see then like where they're thinking, where they're coming from, and maybe like what they're even missing as well along the way, that or the piece of information that you have that gives you a different opinion that perhaps they don't have. And then that's just, you know, it helps you even having the conversation back with them as well, you know. And I think for me and you in particular, like back then, we obviously were working together side by side, 8 hours a day, you know, 5-6 days a week. That's a long time to be two people basically standing side by side talking. So we had the benefit of having extremely long, in-depth conversations about whatever we wanted, but every topic that we discussed, we had the benefit of having extremely long conversations. That wasn't just a snap reaction. This is what I think. Okay, we both move on our way.
Yeah,
we could discuss it back and forth.
And do you think that
at length? You know,
do you think that would have been like a similar situation if, like if it wasn't that length of conversation? So you know, you at the time, like particularly around like certain topics, you're very, very hard nosed. Like you really thought, nope, this is the right answer, and like I really don't care about whatever, you know, anybody else says. And do you think that that part of your coming to at least look at things from a different perspective was just the length of time, or do you think it was just being open in the first place?
So I'd say I think that like definitely have to be open. If you're not open, there's no amount of time that's going to get over that border if somebody's not open to having their opinion changed or to having it, you know, adjusted or completely reversed, you know, whatever it may be. You do have to definitely be open to that. And I'd like to think that I am someone that is that as much as I can. Obviously, like you said, I'm pretty hard-nosed, or was hard-nosed about certain topics. And I'd say I still am, because I do always think my opinion is right. But that makes sense to me. Like, of course you do. Of course you think your opinion is right, or else that wouldn't be your opinion. So
yeah, I mean, it would be ridiculous. It would be ridiculous if you were the kind of person that's like, no, I don't think anything that I say is correct. It's like, no.
However, I still think it. Like,
exactly.
Like, it doesn't make sense.
How could you be sure of anything? Like, no, I get that. Yeah,
but absolutely, yeah, you do have to be like open to having your mind changed on things like that. And I don't know if I even at the time that was like not an active thing that I was like pursuing, you know what I mean? I wasn't trying to change my mind on things, or it wasn't something I'd necessarily even thought about. So that's where I'd say it's a bit of both, you know, okay, maybe I was someone who was open to having discussions and changing my opinions on things, as well as the length of time that we had the conversations. Like, yeah, after a certain amount of time, it's like things start to make sense, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So like, what else makes sense? Like, oh, okay, like, yeah, maybe what I thought about over here was slightly off a little bit. So for sure, I'm off somewhere else. So yeah, I'll keep listening to what you say and taking on board, and actually just like critically thinking about like what you're saying,
Yeah.
rather than looking for the rebuttal that's going to prove my point over your point. You know what I mean? There was no pissing contest. Do you know what I mean? Whether what my perspective is right and yours is right. It was just like having conversation, and a lot of it was interesting to me because it was educating to me. Do you know what I mean? I wasn't someone who was like, especially like, you know, you brought up the topic of music and drugs already. These are not things that I had thought about. I'm still not a music guy, but it's like I listen to music. I love listening to it, but I don't
You hate music.
I don't study it. Do you know what I mean? I don't know a thing about it. I couldn't make a song. I don't know how a song's constructed. I don't know anything like that.
Yeah.
And then the other topic, like, you know, the of drugs. Well, that's literally nothing I've ever actually thought about. You know what I mean? It was the opinions that I had were the opinions that had just been told to me. You know what I mean? By my parents, by, you know, the schools, by, you know, other adults and things that, you know, that was their opinion, and it was just what was told to me, and it was like, oh, okay, that's many people have told me the same thing, so yeah, it makes sense, and that's what I believe. And then all of a sudden I'm talking to you and you're like, well, no, this is my opinion, and I actually have personal experience in this, you know. And it's like, oh, okay, well, what have you got to say then? Because I know the other people that I've listened to don't have experience. That's the point, you know. That's what they're saying, like that you can't have experience in it. It's like it's so bad that just you don't have experience. It's a, you know, zero drug policy. Do you know what I mean? Like all drugs are bad, you know. And yeah, just listening to you and hearing some of your stories and your background and your like knowledge on the topics as well was like, oh, okay, this dude knows his shit, and I'm gonna listen to him. And like, oh wow, I didn't realize that. And oh, okay, no worries, like that's not what I've been told, and that's not what I've thought, and that's not what I've even seen. You know what I mean? Like, and when I say seen, like I had very limited experience at all. You know what I mean? I didn't really know very many people that like took drugs, or if they did, it was just like very like recreational, like party situations. There wasn't like, you know, but yeah, it was
making terrible choices, like while they're drunk. Like
yeah, exactly. It's like I'd never even I didn't know anybody that ever took any drugs that wasn't also drunk at the same time. Do you know what I mean? Like that was just what it was, you know. Like if I the only experience or exposure that I ever had to any drugs was like friends or friends of friends that was, you know, just doing like MDMA or taking some pills or something like that when they're going out clubbing. Like that was it. That was the extent of it. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of like the key things there, and this is where like kind of what I wanted to like just in this entire thing like kind of drill down into is like how like what is it that made you like open enough to be able to take a second look at this kind of thing, and whether that is whether that's maybe a like thing like through your childhood, that like a lesson that you'd already learned to like look critically at things, because I genuinely feel like that skill is in particular, you know, like in the world that we're going to be living in going forward, you know, with the amount of like, you know, misinformation
I mean, it's going to get harder, not easier. But
no, it is 100%. It is going to get harder and harder and harder to be able to discern like the truth, and like obviously me and you have had this.
There it is.
I see that big smile on your face there. I see that big smile and I raise you a big smile because like honestly, no, but like this is as you know, like this is a concept that like is really, really close to my heart of like, you know, what is truth and how do we define truth and that kind of stuff. But in particular, one of the reasons why I kind of wanted to have a chat to you first was because I feel like you've been through a really huge journey when it comes to, I don't know, like it's not even necessarily discerning truth. Like that's not the right way to put it. but like understanding the world in a completely different way than what when I first met you, you know. And not just
Yeah.
that, but also I feel like you're a much healthier guy now
Yeah.
in a lot of ways
Yeah.
than you were you know, through through your life.
Yeah.
So I think like, you know, it's an interesting thing to think about, where like what was the thing for you that made it different for you than for other people, when we're talking about something like drugs, or you know, something like even just so, as simple as music and that kind of thing, like.
Mm.
And also, like, I know you've got you know, had history with you know, dealing with divorce in your family and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of like, is that something, do you think, that maybe like it contributed to your openness and your ability to like kind of define like different realities? Because like that I feel like for a kid anyway is like a big change.
Yeah. Like honestly, I don't even know how to answer that. Like, I don't think there's anything like in my childhood that I could point to that I was like, yeah, this is where I learned to, you know, question my own beliefs and opinions. I don't think. I think it's just something that like maybe over time developed, or just who I maybe even naturally am. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I can't point to like one particular thing. One of the earlier moments of that where I sort of came to this like change of opinion that was against what I had been told for an extended period of time as a young child was the first one was actually like religion. My good friend that you're going to be doing under the podcast with, Joel, as well, like it was his family is actually like very religious. His father's actually like a pastor or a minister. I don't know what exactly one of those things he is, but like, you know, a head of a church thing.
El dente.
I used to go to like, yeah, one of those. Yeah.
Pasta.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah. But yeah, it's like, and they were quite religious and went to church and those sorts of things. And then just as I got older, I was just like, that doesn't quite like, a lot of it doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't like it, things just don't add up there. So it was just like, you know, started to like, that's form my own opinion and move away from like the in that sense, the mainstream narrative. But like with that example, like, I mean, I'm not alone in that. That's a very common thing,
Oh yeah, and for sure,
especially in Australia. Do you know what I mean? Where
yeah,
religion is not like a thing.
it's
It's not.
definitely like now anyway. It's like even
Yeah.
like it's almost like what's surprising to me about like the religion question is like it's almost more common that you find people that are willing to like ridicule religion
Yes. Yes.
than
Yeah.
people
Well.
that are willing to
Yeah.
stand behind it, you
Mhm.
know, like in terms of
Yeah.
like the people that I know in my
Yeah.
life, and there's like a, you know, whatever, like say if I know 100 people,
Yeah.
the vast majority of those people are
Yeah.
that there's only a small handful that would not be in the class of people that are like, aha, fucking religion, like what a
Yeah.
stupid,
Exactly.
you know, yeah.
Well, and I mean, like, I don't even know how. I can't even say I've done like a 360 with religion. I definitely did a 180. Went from like as a young child being told this is what it is, God is real. You
Yeah.
know, going, yep, okay, no worries. Adults are telling me this is what it is, sure. To then getting past that phase and then going, well, hold on, no, doesn't make sense, doesn't add up. To then being like that person that was, you know, fully hardcore atheist, you know, would tell people I was an atheist. I would say to religious people about like, you know, and enjoy having a conversation with them and them having their perspective and me having mine, but never was anyone able to change my perspective back, because they were always just saying the same old stuff. They were just saying like, well, no, God is real, and here the Bible says it. And it's like, well,
Yeah.
that the Bible says it is not enough justification for me that I need to have like that same reality as what you do. but then going back to now, where if someone asks me now, like what my religion is, I do say now, like, yeah, I'm Christian, and yeah, I believe in God now, but not how you think I believe in God. It's like I like to use it as a way to set up the conversation of what now I view religion as, and how now I do believe in the like the theory of God. Like I don't think that there's this like supreme being that created everything. However, I do now say, yeah, I do believe in God, and and it's like that was from listening to a lot of like Jordan Peterson and stuff like that. So it's like I've gone back now to being somewhat of a religious person, but not. I don't even know how to describe it. I don't know what the word even for it is.
So this is so interesting to me, and I genuinely didn't expect like our conversation to go here. But like I would like, as like obviously you know me well enough to know like this is something that I really enjoy talking about. So I had a very similar path to you, but I probably had like a much more intense religious upbringing, so that like to the point where up until I was in my early teens, like my parents would get me to go to like Bible camp,
Yeah.
like
right. Okay. Yep.
like pretty like if you look at, I don't know, what most people would think is like like a perfect religious upbringing and whatever. Like it's like, but not only did I reject it, like I went the opposite way. I was like, fuck God. Like, no. Whatever is good and whatever is like holy, like no, fuck that stuff, because I can recognize that the people that have these beliefs a lot of the time are using them as a way to hold power and hold space that they don't deserve. Like they genuinely fucking are terrible fucking people. And for me, that was like, and what's interesting, right, is that I think the reason why I was most confronted by that is because like that is like a genuine affront to God. So like while I was like being like, no, God isn't real, the reason why I was saying that was because it's like, no, because if you do believe in God, then you shouldn't be acting in the way you are. Which is actually like almost like a higher belief, like a higher moral value, where it's like, no. Like if I'm going to take on this belief structure, then everybody like that is around me should be kind of standing by this, and for the longest time, man, I had the biggest like fucking issue with people,
because it is like offensive. One of the like, I don't know, I don't know the word for it. One of the most like offensive conversations that I've ever had with a Christian person was someone that I used to work with. And he was religious. His father was like a minister or an al dente pastor or something like that as well. And we were at work one day and having a conversation. He was talking about God and religion and Christianity, and he was saying how, if you don't believe in God and you're going to go to hell. And I was like, I had this conversation with him saying, so does that mean that I'm going to go to hell then? Because like, I don't believe in God right now. I said, but you know what? Like, if when I die, I'm in front of a fucking set of pearly gates, guess what? I'm gonna change my mind real quick. Real quick. I'm like, I'm not going to hell on this hill here. It's like I'm open to having my mind change. Like, I need something though. I need some evidence. I need some logic here. My logic. Something needs to make sense to me. And you just saying that I'm going to go to hell because I simply don't believe, and yet you will go to heaven because you do believe. It just doesn't make sense to me.
In particular for me, like, so I've had this conversation with family members, man, and it's really brutal. Like it actually was something that I didn't realize that it had affected me quite to the degree that it had. But this was like, whatever, like I was probably 28, and I had this conversation when I was probably like 17 or 18 with my brother. And the conversation, I mean, maybe I was older than that when I initially had the conversation, but this conversation around going to heaven or hell, for me, I just cannot fathom that you can be like a totally shitty person.
And that's what it was with this guy too, you know.
Yeah,
It's like, and
you'd be a
that's what
totally
I ended
shitty
up getting
person.
to. Like, you know, he was like not a particularly nice person. He wasn't a particularly great father. He was a pretty shitty husband, you know. Like, he was someone who was like cheated on his wife. You know, he used to always try and get the boys after work to like, let's all go to the brothel boys. And I'm like,
Yeah,
no, dude. Like, you know, you literally got your wife and your 3 young kids and that at home, and it's just like having that person, like you were saying earlier, like coming from this point of like authority, or this like high ground in his own mind of, well, no, like, I'm better than you because I simply believe this thing. And it's just like, that just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't, it's like, not, it's just not a logical thought. Like, you know, if you and this is what I ended up saying back to him. I was like, so you're telling me that you can live this in your own definition sinful life, but because you believe you go to heaven, I live this life, I'm not going to say free from sin, no one ever does, but this less sinful life.
yeah.
But at the end, when the fucking, you know, which one goes through the gates and which one doesn't, it's like, that guy believed.
Yeah.
Oh, that guy, he was good guy, but you know what? Just didn't believe enough.
Yeah.
Laters, you know, it's like,
Yeah.
that just doesn't make sense, you know, to
No,
me. And it's like,
I think that for me, one of the big things that has changed my, like, the way that I look at this stuff is just the idea that like nobody believes the same thing. Like nobody that, like, even like, you know, whatever, you talk to like husband and wife, you know, I mean, like fucking husband and wife, they're both Christian, and you actually drill down into what their beliefs are, and they believe totally different things about the afterlife, about you know, who is it that's going to, you know, make it, you know, into heaven and the afterlife, and like everybody has their own version of Christianity, and it's like this ever evolving thing, because like I guarantee, you know, 20 years ago, like one of the biggest things I think that is like an example of this is the debate around gay marriage. You know, like this is a perfect example of like, man, you talk to most Christians now, and the vast majority of them are like, yeah, no, 100%, like gay marriage, totally fine with it. Like 20 years ago,
no,
like that was not a thing. You know, like this isn't evolve. This is like an evolving thing. But for me, I suppose, in terms of like my belief structure and the way that religion informs my life. So, you know, I've read as much of like the Hindu religion as I possibly can. I've read as much about Buddhism as I possibly can. I've read the Quran. I've read the Torah. I've read the Mahabharata and the Sita.
All right, we get it. You're smart, dude. You're right. We got it. Right.
But the reason, but the I suppose the reason why it was important for me personally to read this stuff was just to try and understand in like a universal context, like not even global, but like a what is it that they're all trying to get at? And for me, I think that what comes out of it is it's like this, it's like an arrow that points towards whatever is the highest like moral virtue, the highest moral good, and creates that as, and you know, you call it a god, so it's like almost like the embodiment of what perfection might look like.
Yep.
And gives you a place to aim at to be able to be, you could say closer to God, or you could just say a better fucking person.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that coming to this understanding, I now have like no problem using the word God.
Yeah, no, neither do I, because it's like an effective word to portray what you're trying to say, but it's never actually received in the way you're trying to say it, because like every time you say the word God, it's immediately received with what that person's own perspective on God is, not yours.
Yeah.
But it's a good way to get their attention. You say to people these days, like, no, I believe in God. That it's like there's a couple of reactions. One is like, if they believe in God as well, they're like, oh yeah, me too, I believe in God. Wait, hold on, no, wait, that's not what I'm saying. We don't believe in the same thing. Wait. Or that's very rare though, especially here in Australia. More often than not, it's like, really, like, and it's the reaction that I used to give. Really, you believe in God? Like, you think there's a fucking dude that like made everything and
it's like
Sunday off?
Why do you think that? Like, but like, this is what always gets me. Is like, how many religious people do you know? Like, genuinely, how many religious people do you know? Like, is that actually what you've got from religious people you know? Or is that just what you believe because of your tiny understanding of what God constitutes? It's like the vast majority of the people that have like this massive problem with using the word God are people that have no idea, like they've never been around religion, or they've had that teenager reaction where they've gone, nope, God, these people are bad, and they believe in God, therefore God is bad. But
I mean, most of if you're exposed to religion and God, it's most of the time it is in that way though. It is in the sense of the Christians and the people that go to church and that do believe and in virtually word for word what the Bible says. Do you know what I mean? That is the most common response that you do get from a Christian person. So it's like, I understand why people do have that initial reaction, which is, I know that's why they have it. I understand it, and that's why I like to actually start it with that way and frame it in that way, because it catches people off guard and it gets them in a mind frame where they're like, oh, hold on, what's he actually talking about here? And they'll listen then because they're intrigued. They're like, what? This guy that's like used to be an atheist is now saying like, no, I believe in God now. And they're like, what are you talking about? That doesn't make sense. How do you go? Like, who the hell goes back? Who goes from atheist to
a lot of people that have listened to Jordan Peterson. That's who.
That's right. No, that's exactly right. Yeah, but why? This is like kind of what we're talking about today. Like, why? Because it's like he is someone who is able to articulate it in a way that it makes logical enough sense to people that were once atheists, that were like, no, there's God isn't real. It's like an old thing that happened. It's like an old story that like got picked up and ran with, and then people started like profiting off it because they became the rock stars of the time, and there's a lot of money involved in religion and that sort of stuff. And it's like, that's what a lot of people think that religion is. It's just that. It's just this thing that was around from way back when, but when you listen to Jordan Peterson talk about it, he's like, well, actually, no, it's like this structure, it's this scaffolding for how a society sort of can cohesively gel together and work. You're like, oh, okay, so it's actually like this. It's like you can't just take it at face value, but if you look just below the surface of what it's actually saying, the morals that it's trying to teach. Now, for sure, some of them are wrong. Like for sure, some of them are like shitty morals. No one said it was like a perfect thing that didn't need to be changed. It absolutely needs to be changed in recent times,
and it does. And it does get changed. Yeah, exactly.
And it gets changed. Exactly right. Like even in more recent times, in the last, I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago, something like that, the Pope came out and they made a statement. The Vatican or whoever the hell it was, Jimbo that lives in the whatever, but came out and made a statement. Good old Jimbo came out and made a statement, and it was like, just if aliens are ever discovered and proven to be real, that doesn't mean that God isn't real You know, that basically they announced that, yeah, no, we accept that, and that can work cohesively still within our belief system. So they're like a preemptive change. Would you say, like, you know, if because
Yeah.
they haven't actually announced aliens, so but they're already preempting.
Well,
You know,
maybe.
have they? You know, but yeah, so it's like, you know, it's definitely something that can be changed, that should be changed. But that doesn't mean that there's nothing good there, and that doesn't mean that there's no good points there, and that doesn't mean that you know, now to me, when I say I believe in God, to me God isn't an idea, it's an ideal of, like you said before, it's the perfect being, the perfect existence that has done no wrong, that has caused no harm, that has, it's like this perfect thing, you know, which is unattainable for anybody. No one can live in a perfect existence, and that's why it's God, because it is perfect. So it's this above what we can be, you know what I mean? It's like unattainable to us mere mortals, and that's what God is, this ideal. And then to me, when you look at the Bible and you look at religion, it's like, then there was God, well, the Son of God, Jesus. Well, okay, that's us, that's people. Jesus is just the best example that, like, the human race could ever put forward. Do you know what I mean? And even he didn't have the perfect life. You know what I mean? It was like, I think in his final moments, he like forsake God or something. Or said, God, why have you forsaken me, or something like that.
Why have you
forsaken
me? In your
I don't know if he was singing it. He was kind of like,
in your heart forsaken me.
He was a bit of a lazy guy, Jesus. You know, he just liked to hang around and
self-righteous suicide. Yeah, I think there was a band that might have sung about that. But anyway, I'm so impressed. I'm so impressed, like, by your ability to articulate this, because, like, to be honest, it's something that I actually really struggle with. Even with, like, some of my family still being religious and everything like that, I genuinely struggle still to even articulate you know, like, my religious belief to them. And it is a weird thing when you're talking to, like, actually devout Christians, and you're like, yeah, I believe in God, and they're like,
oh, me too. It's like, yeah, well, no, mine's different.
Yeah, no, they're like, no, I don't.
It's like, I believe in God, and I know that you said you believe in God, but you're a bit off.
Yeah. It's actually really funny, man. I had this experience over Christmas with my brother, who's quite religious, and to be honest, like I don't know how to, like, put this other than kind of saying, like, the best kind of religious, in terms of, I don't think that he's not down for the church. He's not down for preachers. He's a kind of dude that's like, no, I read the Bible.
Yeah.
Like, I do, like, I study the Bible. Like, that's where I get you know, my information from, and, like, that's where I get my belief and understanding from.
So he actually lives the experience of being religious, not just like we were discussing earlier, the examples of people that just use it as an excuse and a justification, or as a like a it doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? Like, okay, yeah, I'm a shitty person, I did this shitty thing, but sorry. Yep, sweet, all good. Next shitty thing, you know. It's like, no, he's not like that. He's someone that actually, like, tries to live by the good morals and be the good Christian person.
I think that even more than that, like, the importance of so I remember having a conversation with him one time and talking about, like, he was doing, like, Bible study, but, like, and for him that was much more important than going to church. And, like, that concept to me definitely was part of my change in thinking about this stuff, in being like, oh, okay, because I think church is bullshit. Like, I think that the vast majority, anyway, of the preachers kind of bullshit. You know, you can go to, like, the mega churches, like, around here, And like they're like fucking packing out stadiums, bro.
Yeah,
They got like the paywave fucking
yeah,
donations happening.
yeah, yeah.
Uh
It's a business. It's
yeah,
a, you know,
yeah.
yeah,
And so look, I'm not saying that church is bad, but like there's a lot of fucking people that are doing something that I would think is actually like against the principles, like against like like what we were talking about, like against like the highest moral value, like the highest moral principle. Like that would
mm,
definitely be against that. Like you shouldn't be
yeah,
profiteering off people's belief.
yeah,
Like that to me is kind of gross, you know.
yeah. It's an interesting. It's like, I don't know if you could ever actually have like a real conversation, because I think they have to either one, believe it and believe that what they're doing is the highest good,
Yeah,
and that them profiting is only allowing them to have greater resources to spread more good, is how I would think that they would
yeah,
justify it.
yeah, for sure,
Um,
for sure.
or they would know they're full of shit and that they're like, well, you know what, I just want to fucking need a Lamborghini. But I'm absolutely not going to tell you that, because
Yeah,
that breaks the you know, I'm the charlatan here. That's I'm doing the con, you know,
yeah,
like the con's only over when you admit it's a con, you know. It's like,
yeah,
so I think it would be one of those two things. So I don't know that you would ever actually be able to have that conversation where you could uh actually get down to it. The closest example that I think, I know, it's like, I never got to have the conversation with him because we ran out of time, and maybe you can bring it up to him again. Like it's, you're going to be having a conversation with Joel. Like I said, his dad was a minister, and he used to be religious and is no longer religious. And as we were ending our conversation this time, he said, I brought it up and we spoke about it very briefly, and he said that he said to his dad one day, like, you know, you're a smart, intelligent man, like you don't believe this, like, do you? Like you can't believe that the Bible's real.
yeah,
uh and he said that the response he got back was, it was the, I wanted to do good in the world and this was the best way I could see to do it. And that
yeah,
was a response he got back from someone who's, you know, the head of a church, his father, you know. It's like, so that's the only time that I've ever heard of, you know, I'm sure there have been others, you know,
yeah.
but in that moment between father and son, they were able to have the honest conversation there about it.
And that must be
Um,
such a hard um
yeah.
conversation
Well,
to have, you know, like if it's your,
yeah,
particularly like it's your whole
yeah,
life and your whole life's
mm,
work. And the reality
mm,
is, all you're trying to do is to do the best possible work that
yeah,
you can find. And the way that
mm,
you find to do that best possible work is through religion.
mm.
Um, and you know,
It's
you're
not the worst thing to do it through. It's like,
oh
it's a
dude,
fucking, it's an extremely powerful thing, you know what I mean? It's
I
like,
have so much respect for people that do that, coming from that place, coming from the
mm,
place that you were just talking about. Um, and like like you can't, like I genuinely don't, there's not many like jobs that I could think of, other than maybe like, you know, counselors and this kind of stuff. Like there's not
mm,
many jobs that are like, you're out there like giving hope, like that's your job. You're like,
mm.
yeah, I'm going to be a professional hope giver. Like you feeling
Yeah, it's life
down,
coach.
yeah, you feeling down,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I'm gonna lift you up once a week,
yeah.
only on Sundays, but like
Mm-hmm,
for a fucking full hour, I am
mm-hmm,
here to empower you. I am here to give you a sense that your life has meaning. I am here to create a moral scaffolding for you
mm-hmm.
to go out through your week and be empowered to live by. It's like,
Mm.
damn, if you're doing that, if you're
Yeah,
doing that for the right reasons, that's a
yeah,
super powerful thing. That's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
that's
But
one
and
of the most powerful.
it's even like more than that though. Do you know what I mean? Like the religion is such this powerful thing that, yeah, it's all of that from the perspective of the minister, but the church itself, the sense of community that you get when you go to church. It's like usually always the same people there. Do you know what I mean? You start to get to know people, you start to make friends, you start to have this new social setting. It's this new sense of community that like a lot of people don't get these days. So it's like it's not just like the single minister himself at the very top. It's the whole organization. It's the whole collective of everyone there participating in an event together is a very, very powerful thing for people.
Yeah. And so one of the things that I've kind of been going through recently is so I think I'm pretty much on the same page with you for the most part about religion. And like, I think it's like, I believe in God. You know what I mean? Like, I believe that there is a highest moral value. Like, I genuinely do. Like, I believe that there's a right and a wrong, and that therefore, like, this is how my brain works, right? There is a right and wrong, which means that there's a more right and a more wrong, which basically translates into good and evil.
Yeah.
Which then translates into, well, what is the highest good and what is the worst bad? And that highest good is God. So I can clearly define, like just through like a priori is how they say, is like, so like, if you have something that you want, you would definitely prefer to have more of that thing. Like, that's just a fundamental truth. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's ways to like prove something without having to like, oh, well, I don't need statistics or anything like that. It's like, yes, there is a good, yes, there is a bad, which means that there is a most good and a most bad. And the embodiment of that best good, or like the highest good, is God. And so I can basically say, I'm like, yes, no, I 100% believe in good. Like, I 100% believe in God. And so, you know, it's a hard thing through that, I think, even, you know, talking to like people like my brother, where he's like, yeah, but like, no. And it's like, no, like, but I do believe in God.
Sweet, you're going to heaven now. You're all good. You're sorted. Yeah. And I think when you frame it like that, which is like your way of framing it, my way of framing it, it's like the same sort of outcome, I think, but like a different sort of slightly different way of getting there, but basically the same thing. It's like when you do say that. Now, I haven't had that conversation. I don't really know a lot of Christian people, so I haven't had the opportunity to have the conversation and say my thoughts on it to them. But I have plenty of times with atheist people. When you say it to them like that, it's like, that makes sense. Yeah, okay, I get that. And it's like, you know what I mean?
They're like, oh wait, me too.
Now they don't then immediately go, oh, okay, fuck, I'm Christian too. Like, let me update my Facebook profile picture. You know what I mean? Like, let
me change my pronouns. Like,
So it's like they don't do that, but they get where I'm coming from. They go, oh, okay, that makes sense. That's like, I believe in that, but they don't then use my words. They don't then just go around saying like the highest good or the most good or whatever you want to phrase it. They don't then going around as going like, no, that's God. But I wouldn't either.
No, me neither.
It's only because it's like I said, it gets that attention. It gets that what? So they listen. So you know what I mean?
So see, I don't even think about it like that. I think about it as so like, one of the things that I think is like super interesting to me is language, just in general, right? And how we use language. But one of the like problems or whatever with language is that I can say a word and you can say a word and we can mean two totally different things. Or I can say a series of words and they might be, you fully understand what I've just said, but I can actually be meaning something slightly different. So when I say something like, no, I like God is like it's provably real, which I've said to a bunch of atheists, and they're like, what? Like, what do you mean it's provably real? That's ridiculous. I'm like, no,
because
look.
because that's one of their talking points. It's like one of their beliefs that it's like what that confirms their belief in atheism.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that it cannot be proven. It's like so it's like prove to me God's real, and then
so
this is what I can prove it to you.
This is where it gets really interesting for me, because I've had those conversations with atheists, and like really, really hard out atheists who turn around and go, no, you are 100% wrong. I'm like, but hold on a second. You can understand the concept. So this is where I always start with it. There's like, you can understand the concept that like there is pain. Like pain exists. They're like, yeah, okay, I'll give you that. I'm like, all right, cool. And pain.
My job here is done.
Yeah, that's right. I'm like, exactly, right?
Yeah.
But like, yeah, like pain is worse than not pain. Like, I don't know, maybe keep going.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to agree with something yet because I don't want to change my mind.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I'm saying a lot of things that I'm agreeing with you on a few things here. So let's just
that's right. Goes, I may have agreed too much already.
Carry on.
And so then it moves to okay. So if not pain is better than pain, then there is a something that could be the least pain, the least amount of pain. So like there is a structure in which you could live your life that would be like the least painful way to live life. And that's where
even that term becomes objective. Do you know what I mean? Least
that's right.
And who?
So this is the weird thing. This is the weird thing, right?
Of your immediate area, for the whole globe, for like like where do you draw that perspective of what's the least pain from? It's not a. You don't. You can't. You don't. But that doesn't mean it's not there.
It's for everybody. No. Yeah. I think it's a universal fact.
I think so too.
This is my belief. Like, is that it is a universal thing? Is that like no. Like, it doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter like what your opinion is. It's like no. Would you rather experience pain or not experience pain? Like, yeah, no. I would rather not experience pain. And I've literally had this stupid fucking argument with atheists where they're like, yeah, but some people like pain.
Yeah, don't kink shame me.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my god, dude! Like, are you not getting this?
Fucking, didn't you hear Rihanna's song "Whips and Chains" excite me? All right.
Yeah. Does putting your face on a stove excite you, cunt? Like,
hey, man, who am I to say?
That's right. That's exactly where it gets to. And I'm like, all right. If that's your attitude, I just cannot have this conversation with you because, like, you are just denying a fundamental reality. And the reality is that there is a hierarchy of good to bad, which means that there is a highest good, and that highest good is the embodied, like, is what people talk about when they talk about God. It just like that absolute highest good is God. Like, that's how people view it. Even religious people will not deny that. They will say, like, yes, absolutely, like it is perfection. You know what I mean? It is absolute perfection. And it's like, so that exists, right? We can imagine that. So even if you don't believe that it's a person, which, by the way, most religious people don't believe either. Like, they don't. Like, you go talk to them. No. You go to any fucking church, like, they're not talking about like, oh, so God was walking around one day.
I think a lot of people that are atheists have that opinion on what Christians are, honestly, because of The Simpsons. A lot of people think that what God is the way that God is portrayed in The Simpsons. It's the long-haired dude on the beach. You
Monty
know what
Python.
I mean?
Monty Python.
Yeah, it's like it's portrayed in a lot of different ways. You know what I mean? But like, it's
the hand of God.
It's the way it's been portrayed. Yeah, it's like that's what people think that everyone still thinks.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't even know if it's necessarily what they thought of back then, or that was just their way of like, you know what I mean? Like, back then they had to draw it. They had to, like, how the fuck do you draw God?
Yeah.
Well, you draw what your idea of a perfect person is. And that's what God is. Do you know what I mean? But it doesn't mean
some
you
reason
think
they're
it's a
perfect.
person.
He should be way more ripped, by the way, in all of the
Where's
drawings.
God with his like fucking 8-pack? Do
Oh,
you
I
know what I
suppose, yeah,
mean?
like
That,
Michelangelo. Was it Michelangelo?
yeah,
Like the Sistine Chapel, where it's like the two fingers touching, and like
yeah.
God's just ripped as
Just
fuck.
jacked.
Yeah, he's fully jacked, bro. He's
It's
been
like
on the
Brock
road.
fucking Lesnar sitting up there. Like...
Yeah, he is, man. Yeah, for sure. He's jacked, man. Yeah, and like that's the thing, right? Because God should be jacked. God should be jacked.
Well, it's like, yeah. I think what the I think what the image of what maybe the ideal man is has changed over the years as well. Do you know what I mean? Like
sure,
back then when that was painted, you know, I don't know how long ago.
I mean,
it was
we
like
could literally look it up.
There wasn't people that were like, you know what I mean, fucking 7'2".
Yeah, there was no
50 kilos of no, you know what I mean. It was like that was the ideal looking physique and person of the time, you know. So it's like that things change, but it's like, I don't know, it's a it's a pretty like funny thing if that's someone's definition, or that's someone's like no, I can completely write off the entirety of religion because there's no way that a person made the universe. It's like, okay,
all right, man.
you've missed the point.
Totally.
And it's like, it's like, but the problem is like there's the flip side of that too. Like there actually are some Christians that do think no, that this person, not person, this entity. God, this thing that looks like us because we're made in his image, so he looks like a person, but he's not quite a person, he's a God. That no, he did make the earth, and he did make there is no, or then some people don't believe in the universe, you know what I mean? Like it's like, no, he did do it, and he did it in 7 days. Didn't you read the book?
So like it's really hard to, like, when you drill down on that kind of stuff, like particularly with Christians, it is like hard to, because like most atheists won't even get to that point with you, right? So like I've only had these conversations with religious people, and like that is the point right there where you were talking about, is like that's the point where they'll kind of be like, but I actually believe like in that. And I'm like, yeah, but so do I. Because like my belief is that concept of God, as we've talked about, like the thing that we were talking about, is what drove evolution. Is one of the things that has driven evolution. So like instincts. So, you know, you can have like a dog has instincts. They're born, they just know how to walk. Like, so that's hardwired into their brain. And in the same way, I think that we have, I don't think it's like provable, that we have instincts as well. So like we have the capacity for thinking in certain different ways. We have like things like empathy, you know, like hatred, like groupthink, like all these kind of concepts that like it kind of a bit hard to define or whatever. But there's a reason why they're there. They're like, even without language, they would be hardwired into our head, that we would still, even without language, have the ability to have those concepts. And like the entirety of like humanity, or like whatever, like, you know, on the first day, like God created heaven and the earth. So I was like, yeah, you know, that's actually what happened. Like this thing has been with us. Like that highest moral value has been with us from the start, like since we were monkeys, like since we were coming out of the trees. And so like that's how I look at these stories is that it's like they're analogies for fucking evolution. You know what I mean? Like they're analogies for like prehistory.
Yeah, it's like ways of existing in the world that work. You know, it's like a
Yeah,
cohesive thing that that everyone's like, yeah, no, that's fine. You believe that, so you do that, and then I can do that too. And hey, both of us are not like impacting negatively on each other. It's like we're both like doing good here. We're working together. It's like, you know, it's like a
yeah,
that's kind of like what
and
most religions are. You know?
yeah, that's right. And I think that like the reason why that works is that because it just like works. I don't know what the right word is, but um, like without culture, like it is fundamental. It's like a fundamental genetic thing that exists within people, so that even if you were to remove all of history from a person, they would still have these, like it would still be the most beneficial for them to be living in this way. They would still have these impulses that even if you were to take away language, even if you were to take away culture, like you take away all those things, it still exists within that person that like being good is better than being bad. You know what I mean?
Well, I think they get even like you know, in some studies of different monkey, I don't know what they're called, groups, whatever you call a group of monkeys.
Troop.
You know what I mean? Troop. Yeah. It's like they've looked at different ones and they've gone like in certain situations where there's one big one that's like a bit of a bully and the big strong one that they rise to power. They don't stay there very long because it doesn't work. The troop doesn't survive under that sort of you know, person at the top. The ones that work are the ones where it's like more of a cohesive thing where the people are like getting along together.
They form a coalition. Like, yeah, that's right. So yeah, it's like the chimp research.
Yep.
What's his name? There's a guy that was like, I literally just recently listened to an interview with, he did like all the chimpanzee research. So staying for years and years with chimp tribes. And dude, it was like fucking scary, man. Some of the stuff that he was talking about, like where they're like warring and stuff, like their war is like fucking brutal. That is like, if they catch another chimp from like another tribe, that chimp is totally fucked, bro. He just gets ripped apart. Like, but only if it's like a certain balance. So if it's 2 versus 1, they generally won't do anything. They'll be like, oh, there might be another chimp hiding somewhere here. We'll let it go. But if it's like 3 or 4 versus 1, they got no hesitation. Yeah.
This guy's fucked.
Just rip him, boys. Literally rip his dick off. Like that guy is totally fucked. But anyway, like your thing about like, you know, the hierarchy there though is that like the this guy was basically making the point that like where human evolution turned a corner was because of beta males. He was like, the betas are the most like they're the reason why humanity survived evolution. Like they're the reason why, like, that caused us to evolve in the way that we did, because basically like you're the alpha and he's like lording it over his fucking crew, and even though he has to be nice, because if he wasn't he wouldn't remain alpha for very long, which is like the point that you're making. The betas were the ones that were like, no, we think that we should spend more time grooming and like forming tender, like loving relationships with the other chimps, basically, or like the other proto hominids. And if you aren't okay with that, then you might kill one of us. But there's like fucking 20 of us. Yeah. So like, what are you gonna do, cunt? Like, and that's where like that hard selection pressure ends up happening then. And that like his basic thesis was, or hypothesis was, that like the entire reason why humanity split off and evolved so quickly to have such a more higher functioning brain was just purely because of beta males.
Right. Interesting.
So we're all descendants of beta males.
Not me. I'm an alpha, bro.
Yeah,
What are you talking
that's right. I mean, obviously, with the exception of me and you.